Hi lovelies, and welcome back to this channel. If you are new here, my name is Belinda Strana. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Don't forget to please subscribe to this channel, turn on notifications so that anytime I upload a video, you will be the first person to be notified. And to my returning subscribers, thank you so much for all the love and support. To those people that share my videos, that leave commentaries, and also educate you guys are the real MVP. Thank you so much for all the love and support. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video. So lovelies, I came across this video on my For You page on TikTok where these pan-colored people is really coming so hard on their brothers and sisters about reparations. Guys, I'm just going to roll the clip as well as some of the stitches I was able to put together. Please leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. Alright lovelies, let's dive into today's video.
White people, I have a question for you, and if you I would like for you to think about this critically and logically. When you envision the transatlantic slave trade and you picture in your mind the hundreds of thousands of African bodies who were forced onto ships to be taken to various places throughout the world and sold into slavery, what kinds of people do you picture? The reason that I ask is because I can almost guarantee that through indoctrination and by design, the vast majority of you picture uneducated, uncivilized, and in your mind what a savage would look like. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? And does it make sense? The white settlers had already failed to create some type of economy here in North America so many times before. They had failed over and over and over again. So many had starved. Europeans didn't even want to go anymore because the idea of starving or getting an arrow through the heart didn't seem appealing to them because that's all that was happening over and over and over again. They had already killed so many indigenous people. So you think that they specifically then sought after the most uneducated and uncivilized human beings that they could think of to come here to jumpstart their economy. Does that make any sense? Does it make any sense that the people of the continent of Africa had survived for thousands of years and cultivated that land long before the transatlantic slave trade started? It doesn't make any sense. Logically, it doesn't make sense. And so you have to ask yourself, what is the number one thing that is different between the Europeans and the Africans that it would be so easy for Europeans to use as a way to create apathy amongst the masses? Skin color. They looked differently, but they were educated and they could work, and they saw that. So they specifically sought after them because they knew that they could create a false narrative that these individuals were uncivilized, uneducated, and like throwaway people. And they were put here to work for the white men, and thus birthed white supremacy. But the truth of the matter is that the individuals who were forcibly loaded onto those ships were botanists, philosophers, astronomers, doctors. The list goes on and on and on. They were vital assets to their communities, and they were thriving in Africa. As a matter of fact, at one point, the white settlers, colonists, Europeans, whatever the fuck you want to call them, the white people, specifically sought after a group of women from a region in Africa where these women cultivated rice. And now cultivating rice is a very labor-intensive process. It breeds bacteria and it's incredibly dangerous. But these women were pros at it. They were super intelligent and they knew what they were doing. And the white men wanted them to come do it for them in the Carolinas. And so that's what they did. They created this false sense of superiority that has lingered on to today. Africans that were brought here jump-started this economy. And they have never, ever, ever been shown credit where it is due. They've never been given any type of reparations from jump-starting this economy and creating the very country that we live in today. Truly. And if you don't believe me, if you don't believe that these were educated and highly valuable people, I want you to go read up on the Stono Rebellion. It was one of the largest slave rebellions that literally shut the transatlantic slave trade down for years following that. And after that, the chattel slave owners were basically told that the goal was to basically SA the women so that they can create slaves who were born here and knew no different. They then believed that slaves who were born in Africa would be a lot more difficult to train, and they were a lot less malleable. They could dumb them down a little bit, get rid of some of that education, and just make them work. They just wanted the work aspect of it. They didn't give a fuck about their minds at all. So I want you to truly, seriously think about that and think about, logically, does it make sense that the white man was desperately looking for a group of people to subjugate so that they could jumpstart their economy in their new world, and they specifically sought after individuals who were uneducated and uncivilized? I don't know. Doesn't make sense to me because it's not true. Have a good night.
Have you ever heard of the largest slave uprising in the 13 colonies that put a massive dent in the slave trade? In 1739, the Stono Rebellion occurred in South Carolina. Jemmy, also referred to as Cato, recruited 60 to 100 other Africans, most of whom were former soldiers from the Kingdom of Congo, in an armed march to Spanish Florida to gain freedom. They burned 6 plantations and killed 23 white people along the way before being defeated by a larger South Carolina militia. In response, South Carolina passed legislation which restricted assembly, education, and movement for the enslaved. Despite the failure of the uprising, South Carolina enacted a 10-year ban on importing enslaved Africans because they feared more uprisings, and this potentially saved thousands from enslavement. And they established penalties against enslavers as harsh treatment of the enslaved in hopes to prevent another uprising. Did you learn about this uprising in your history classes?
Do these 5 things that were made illegal for us to do in 1740 if you want to begin the process of achieving liberation as a black person. Following the Stono Rebellion, which was a rebellion in which 50 enslaved black folks offed 20 to 25 white folks to free themselves, the Negro Act was passed to prevent another rebellion. So what does that mean? It means you need to do these 5 things to achieve true liberation. Number 1, it became illegal for us to read, so make sure you keep reading because they still trying to ban your history. Number 2, it became illegal for us to move freely. So enjoy your freedom, travel the world, go where you want to go. Number 3, we could no longer assemble in groups. So get together with some like-minded folks and organize. Number 4, we couldn't grow our own food, so start a farm. And number 5, we couldn't make our own money. So start your business today.
No, you see, my friend, that's where you're wrong. For anyone who's confused, this person is basically making the argument that if people from North Africa or West Asia, the Middle East, aren't considered white, then neither should Iberians. And you're probably wondering, what is an Iberian? An Iberian is somebody from Spain or Portugal, and that's kind of where the whole argument loses kind of credibility. The people who invented the modern idea of what we now know as race and white supremacy was the Portuguese, Iberians. And guess who followed suit right after them? The Spanish. And that's when the Dutch, the French, and the English all were like, wait, why do we kind of like this? And they colonized. I've seen this argument all the time when it's like, well, Southern Europeans aren't really like that way. They're the ones that invented the concept. Do you think it was people from fucking Tunisia and Egypt that were over there colonizing the Americas? No. That's why when people kind of argue that Ronaldo doesn't look white, I want you guys to realize that the Portuguese colonizers who literally started the transatlantic slave trade literally look like this. They're the ones that established themselves even looking like this, as white, as the standard, as the top. And the wives of those same Portuguese men, the wives who stayed back in Europe while their husbands were forcing indigenous and African women to have their babies, they look like this. She's Spaniard, but still Iberian. So yeah, I'd argue that the racial classification of North Africans and Iberians should be a little bit different, because you know how when people say like, oh, race is a social construct? The Iberians started that social construct. Colonizers who literally started the transatlantic slave trade literally look like this.
The Spanish and the Portuguese adopted the slave trade from North Africans. They didn't invent it. Most of the pictures of the black Moors you see are actually just slaves that were, being brought over across the Sahara. This person said that the Spanish invented the modern concept of race. First and foremost, the modern concept of race as we know it came from the Germans. And they did indeed get it from the Spanish and Portuguese, but the Spanish and Portuguese got it from their own colonizers. And the Europeans were actually victims of these same people who said the people of Iraq do not come out something between blonde, buff, and blanched coloring such that the infants drop from the wombs of the women of the Slavs. That's the most disrespectful thing I've ever heard. You can read what they said about black people too. Y'all can pause and read this if you want to. Like I said, it's very disgusting, very disturbing. Now, you're not even from like Africa, so I don't really expect you to know any of this. Southern Europeans can be white. I don't really care. It shouldn't be the reason. It's just simply recency bias. That's
Like seriously, lovely, this Stono Rebellion, of a thing actually remind me of the story I heard from my grandfather, that he actually said that this story was told by his own grandfather. So this is a kind of similarity with this Stono Rebellion, story about some group of soldiers that was actually taken away and forcefully into slavery and all of that, which they ended up trying to analyze some colonize, like some masters and all of that, but after which they were also taken over from the colonizers, and just the way they just said in the video. So when this guy was actually talking about this Stono Rebellion, it also reminded me of what I heard about the Igbo Landing. They have the same, kind of story, similarities. So in the case of this Igbo Landing of a thing, they actually, didn't jump off the ship. What they did was to, they were all were able to rebel against the masters. That's their masters. This Igbo Landing of a thing is some part of slaves from the Igbo land, like far away in Africa, and these slaves are of the African descent from the Igbo land in Africa. So they decided that okay, and these people are very strong, like they said, the ex soldiers, the militant, the farmers, all those strong ones, because these colonizers or these masters, when they want to take slaves and all of that, they go for the ones that they know that okay, this person is strong and is able to make some inputs and all of that. So in this story of the Igbo Landing that my grandfather actually told me, which his own grandfather told that his brother was one of the people that was taken into this Igbo Landing of a thing. So at the process of taking them, these people took over the masters and they unalived them, after which the ship, on getting to the place that they called Igbo Landing, wherever, somewhere in the United States and all of that, instead of them to allow themselves to be captured by the colonies, because of just where this Stono Rebellion was captured, instead of them to be allowed to be captured and become enslaved and tortured, because they have done something not thinkable, they decided that instead of them to go through that process, they told themselves that okay, since we have already gotten rid of all these people, the best thing we have to do is to just take ourselves, like to just drown ourselves. Like if you're checking, like you want to know about this story, just go on TikTok and all of that, because I cannot put some of the images here. I have some of the images on my phone and all of that on TikTok, but I cannot put it here. So they decided that okay, instead of us to get to our destination, because the ship actually took them to their destination, instead of them to be captured by the masters, which already bought them because they dealt with the people that captured them, they decided that they were going to jump inside the river and drown themselves. So this was the reason why they had to tie themselves, because they were already tied. Like they decided to like tie themselves, tie their eyes and all of that, and they went into this river. So like drown themselves, both the women and men and children and all of that. They did that instead of them to be captured. And till date, there's a festival that has been celebrated or something like that far away in Africa and Igbo land, in regards to these people that actually gave themselves up, because it is said in such culture in Igbo land, they are not allowed to be to be enslaved by someone or to go to another man's land and become slaves. So I think it's an abomination in that state culture or something like that. So that was why they decided to like end it there, and that made their generation not to not to continue being enslaved and all of that. And that was how the Igbo Landing story. So when I saw this, the Stono Rebellion, it reminds me of the Igbo Landing. So all of these things are connected. Now let's talk about the issue of the reparation of a thing. When black people are coming for reparation, a lot of people think the people that actually built the said states that every other person is enjoying today are some kind of illiterate or some kind of people that is not strong. These people are soldiers. These people are intelligent people. These people are people that have something upstairs. They are not just some people that's So when people are talking about reparation and you are like talking about why would you do that, like some people feel that it's just some kind of okay, we don't need to like repair anything. What do they have to offer? They've long gone. But there are generations that they left behind, which supposed to actually test what they have suffered, like benefit from what they have suffered. But in case of this separation of thing, people don't want to talk about it. Activists even try to do such thing, they overlook it. But one good thing about this video is that this is actually coming from a pan-colored person. If it's going to take a pan-colored person to actually make these people understand that we are not asking for what we are not qualified for, then so be it. When I saw her, the first person that staged the video, when I was listening to it, I was like, okay, even if she has not really done anything physically, but at least with her voice, if we can have people like this that actually chose to educate themselves without trying to like listen to what the media is saying or what we've been brainwashed to listen to. And another thing is that there's a brother I stitched his video. He was talking about how we need to travel more because this is what they don't want us to do. They don't want us to read. They don't want us to travel because then during those days, if your reading is an offense, like reading, going to school is an offense that is punishable by something that is unspeakable. So if that should be a very huge offense, this is a reason why. And I'm so super proud of the black people we have today, especially black women. They have chosen to educate themselves. They do not like it when you get educated, when you travel, when you try to know things, or when you try to like know your history, to know really what is going on. Just look at what is happening between black Yeshua and the pan-colored Yeshua. So this, because they feel that when we are so broadened, when we want to read, we find out so many things that they have hidden away from us. Do you know that there is a certain Bible that is actually meant for for black slaves then, that will make you feel that you being a slave is just the will of God and the way the system is just that's what you are born to do? Like, because you are dark, you are automatically supposed to be enslaved? That is the kind of Bible they have to give those people to read, to tell you that these people information is something that scares them. History is something that scares them, because the more we want to enlighten ourselves, read and know whatsoever that happens in the past, the more they are so agitated, the more they are so nervous. So I also agree with the brother. Reading, knowing history, just the way sometimes when I see stuff like this, I just want to educate myself because I want to make impact. And the way you guys are doing on this channel, trying to educate us all on the comment section, oh my goodness, I have learned so many things from you guys. I cannot take all the gestures for granted. Anyways, lovelies, let me just leave here. Why not just leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. And do not forget that we do not support any form of bullying, harassment, or whatsoever. We're just here for educational purposes. So please share this video, subscribe to this channel if you're here to do that, and I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one. If you have watched up to this extent, thank you so much for all the love and support. Don't forget to please leave me your own thoughts in the comment section of what you think of this video. And do not forget that this channel, we do not support any form of bullying, harassment, or whatsoever. We're just here for educational purposes. So please share this video, subscribe, and leave your thoughts. And I will see you lovelies when I upload the next one.